What if I told you that the most unsuccessful person in any room isn't the lazy one, the unmotivated one, or even the one without talent? It's the person desperately chasing success. You know the type. Hustling constantly, networking aggressively, grinding without rest, optimizing every moment. Society calls them ambitious. Lao Tzu called them something else entirely. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this person will never catch what they're chasing, while people who stop running often find success effortlessly arriving at their door. Or maybe you're that person exhausted from the chase. But first, let me show you exactly what I mean. You walk into a conference and see two people. At one table, there's Rachel, handing out business cards to everyone, pitching her ideas aggressively, attending every networking event, classic ambitious hustler. At another table, there's James, deeply engaged in conversation with one person, not promoting anything, seemingly unbothered by the room full of opportunities. Who would you bet on to achieve success? Hold that thought, because what I'm about to tell you will flip everything you believe about achievement. Rachel will go home exhausted with a stack of cards that lead nowhere. James just had one conversation that will change his life. Rachel is chasing success so desperately that people can smell it. James is so focused on genuine connection that success is drawn to him. So why does everyone think Rachel's approach works and James is wasting opportunities? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You celebrate Rachel because she validates everything you believe about how success works, that it requires constant hustling, aggressive pursuit, visible grinding. Lao Tzu spent his wisdom teaching about people like James, and what he discovered was this: society doesn't understand that success is like water. The more you grasp at it, the more it slips through your fingers, but when you become like a valley that water naturally flows toward, success comes to you effortlessly, because they prove that everything we've been taught about ambition, hustle, and grinding is creating the opposite of what we want. But here's what Lao Tzu knew that nobody talks about. The person who stops chasing isn't giving up on success. They're becoming the kind of person success naturally gravitates toward. While everyone else is running in desperate circles, they're cultivating something magnetic. And that magnetism, that's exactly what will change your life. But to understand why, we need to dig into the one thing that makes people more uncomfortable than anything else. Lao Tzu wrote, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." But what happens when someone embodies that principle in a world that worships hustle? If you've ever felt exhausted from chasing success that never comes, this video is for you. Like, subscribe, and let's stop the chase together. Leave a comment about the last time you chased something desperately and it ran from you, or stopped chasing and it came to you. That's the person who lets success come to them. They're a walking contradiction that breaks conventional wisdom, has ambition without desperation, goals without anxiety, direction without force, works deeply but doesn't hustle performatively, creates value but doesn't promote aggressively. And this terrifies us, because if success doesn't require the grinding hustle, if achievement doesn't demand networking desperation, if results don't need the performance of constant busyness, then what does that say about the exhausting race you've been running your entire life? But here's where it gets really interesting. Lao Tzu discovered something that explains why chasing success guarantees you'll never catch it. And it has nothing to do with effort or ambition. Remember that desperate energy you feel around people aggressively chasing success? Lao Tzu had a name for it. And once you understand what it is, you'll never see ambition the same way again. Quick question. When was the last time you did deep, meaningful work without immediately trying to monetize it, promote it, or leverage it for success? Not creating content for the algorithm, not networking for opportunities, not grinding to prove you're hustling, just doing valuable work because it matters. Can't remember? That's the problem. Lao Tzu discovered that our obsession with chasing success isn't about achieving anything real. It's about performing ambition to avoid feeling like we're not enough. He called this forcing, or Wu Wei's opposite. The desperate grasping that pushes away what you're trying to attract. And in our culture, the biggest trap is believing that visible hustle equals inevitable success. But here's what Lao Tzu knew. We perform hustle. We post about our grind. We network desperately and optimize obsessively and broadcast our ambition. Not because it works, but because we're terrified of being seen as someone who's not hungry enough, not driven enough, not worthy of success. Think about your last success post on social media. Was it celebrating genuine achievement? Or was it performing ambition to prove you're worthy of success you haven't achieved yet? The person who lets success come to them doesn't perform hustle. They're not proving their worth through visible grinding. They're not even chasing opportunities. And somehow, this is the part that breaks people's brains. They often achieve more than everyone running around with their hair on fire. Lao Tzu wrote, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." What keeps you from success isn't lack of ambition. It's that you're chasing so desperately that success runs from you. That you're grasping so tightly that opportunities slip away. That you're forcing so aggressively that natural flow becomes impossible. But what if you're not failing at hustling hard enough? What if the problem is that hustling itself is the thing preventing your success? Here's what the hustle culture gurus don't want you to know. Desperation repels success more effectively than laziness ever could. Everything you've been taught about how achievement works is backwards. Lao Tzu wrote, "The usefulness of a pot comes from its emptiness." You've been filling your life with frantic activity, leaving no space for success to enter. The wealthy, the successful, the genuinely accomplished, they understand something most people never access. Success comes to those who create space for it, not to those who chase it desperately. While you're forcing every interaction into a networking opportunity, they're having genuine conversations that naturally lead to opportunities. While you're promoting yourself aggressively, they're creating such obvious value that people seek them out. While you're grinding visibly to prove your hustle, they're working deeply on things that matter. This is why your desperate chase never catches success. You're not creating anything worth succeeding with. You're performing the appearance of ambition. Remember Rachel from the conference? While James was having one deep conversation that led to a life-changing partnership, Rachel was collecting business cards from people who will never remember her name. Her aggressive networking was actually desperation disguised as ambition. Lao Tzu called this Wu Wei, action through non-action, not doing nothing, but acting without force, without desperation, without grasping. When your actions flow from genuine value rather than desperate need, success becomes inevitable. But here's the really crazy part. This approach feels wrong. It feels like you're not doing enough. It feels lazy to everyone watching. And that's exactly the social conditioning designed to keep you chasing, keep you desperate, keep you easy to exploit by people selling you hustle courses and success formulas. Lao Tzu believed that knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. The person who stops chasing has mastered something most never will. They've stopped letting external validation dictate their actions. And that mastery gives them access to something hustle culture can't provide. Now we get to the real reason society fears the person who stops chasing success. And it's not what you think. This isn't about individual achievement. This is about control. Lao Tzu wrote, "He who knows he has enough is rich." But the person who stops chasing isn't struggling to feel like enough. They already know they're enough. And that's terrifying to anyone who profits from your desperation. Think about it. Our entire success industry depends on one belief, that you're not enough as you are. You need more followers, more connections, more hustle, more optimization. You need courses to teach you how to network. You need coaches to keep you grinding. You need systems to maximize your output. The person who stops chasing looks at this industry and asks one simple question. What if I'm already enough and I just need to do valuable work? And nobody selling success has a good answer. They have presence without performance, value without promotion, achievement without anxiety. This makes them unpredictable. Unpredictable people are dangerous to industries built on manufactured desperation. But here's the deeper fear that keeps the hustle industrial complex running. What if stopping the chase actually works better? What if desperation repels the opportunities you're seeking? What if the people who seem lazy about networking actually build stronger relationships? If that's true, then millions of people have been exhausting themselves for nothing. They've been sacrificing their mental health, their genuine relationships, and their actual valuable work for a hustle culture that was never designed to help them succeed. It was designed to keep them buying courses, attending conferences, and staying desperate enough to be exploitable. The person who lets success come to them represents proof that there's another way, a way that doesn't require constant performance or endless networking. Lao Tzu observed, "The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long." The hustlers burning themselves out are guaranteeing they'll never sustain success even if they catch it. And what they see there doesn't match what hustle culture tells them success requires. But here's where this gets personal. Because Lao Tzu himself was the perfect example of what happens when someone embodies non-forcing in a world that demands aggressive pursuit. Lao Tzu was literally the person who refused to chase success of his time. And his story proves this. His contemporaries thought he was wasting his potential by not seeking power. The ambitious rulers called him passive and unambitious. Society labeled him as wise but impractical for real achievement. Lao Tzu spent years doing what looked like nothing to achievement-obsessed culture, living simply without pursuing status, teaching without building an empire, writing without promoting himself. Sound familiar? That's exactly what people say about those who don't chase today. But here's what Lao Tzu knew that his critics didn't. He had accepted something profound. That forcing creates resistance. That chasing creates distance. That grasping makes things slip away. And from that acceptance came wisdom that shaped Eastern philosophy for millennia. The Tao Te Ching, the principle of Wu Wei, the understanding of natural flow, the path of least resistance. All of these concepts influence how millions understand life and success today. They all emerged from what looked like passive withdrawal, but was active cultivation of conditions that allow success to flow naturally. This is the pattern with history's most enduring influencers. They appeared passive to their contemporaries because they weren't desperately chasing visible achievements. Buddha stopped striving and found enlightenment. Einstein spent time daydreaming rather than frantically networking. Warren Buffett sits in Omaha reading rather than hustling in New York. But hustle culture calls this lazy, passive, or privileged, because the truth that you don't need to chase threatens a multi-billion-dollar industry. The person who stops chasing today is following the same pattern. And just like Lao Tzu, they're not trying to force success through aggressive pursuit. They're cultivating the conditions that make success inevitable. They're becoming so obviously valuable that opportunities seek them. They're building such genuine relationships that success flows through natural connection. And that cultivation looks like laziness to everyone addicted to performing hustle. Here's what Lao Tzu knew that our culture is still learning. The person who stops chasing isn't giving up. They're playing a completely different game that the chasers don't understand. But maybe you're starting to recognize yourself in this description. Maybe you're exhausted from chasing and wondering if there's another way. Lao Tzu wrote, "When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. But becoming simply yourself requires understanding the signs that you're ready to stop chasing. Let me show you these signs. If these resonate, understanding them will transform your entire approach to success." First sign, your networking feels performative and draining rather than energizing. While others seem to thrive on collecting contacts, you feel exhausted by superficial connections. You'd rather have 3 deep relationships than 300 shallow ones. Every networking event feels like you're performing rather than connecting. That's not social inadequacy. That's recognizing that depth matters more than breadth. Second sign, you're more interested in mastery than visibility. Traditional achievers want to be seen succeeding. You want to actually be excellent at something. You'd rather spend a year becoming genuinely skilled than spend that year promoting mediocre work. When people tell you to focus on personal branding, you think, but I'd rather focus on actually being good. Sound familiar? That's not lack of ambition. That's understanding that substance precedes sustainable success. Third sign, your best opportunities came from unexpected places, never from aggressive pursuit. You look back and realize the job came from a casual conversation. The business partner appeared when you weren't networking. The breakthrough happened when you stopped forcing. Every time you chased desperately, opportunities ran. Every time you relaxed into genuine work, success found you. Fourth sign, You feel resistance to hustle culture's constant demands. Wake up at 5 a.m., post every day, network constantly, never stop grinding. These demands make you feel constricted rather than inspired. You work deeply but not performatively. You create value but resist promoting it. You have ambition but it doesn't feel desperate. Fifth sign: your most valuable work happens in stillness, not hustle. Your best ideas come during walks, showers, quiet moments. Your deepest insights emerge when you're not trying. Your most meaningful progress happens when you're focused, not when you're frantically busy. But you've been told this is wasting time while others are hustling. Sixth sign: you attract opportunities when you're genuinely engaged in your work, and they disappear when you're desperately seeking them. When you're lost in valuable work, people reach out. When you're aggressively networking, nobody responds. The energy of desperation repels. The energy of absorbed focus attracts. Seventh sign: success advice that says, hustle harder, makes you feel empty rather than motivated. You read the hustle posts and feel disconnected. You hear the grind speeches and feel exhausted. Something in you knows this isn't the path, even though everyone says it is. You've been taught to see these as signs you're not ambitious enough. You've been told you need more hunger, more drive, more hustle. Lao Tzu would tell you to stop. He'd tell you that your resistance to forcing is wisdom, not weakness. When you stop fighting your natural rhythm and start honoring it, you gain access to sustainable success. Not the desperate grasping that burns you out even when it works, but the natural flow that allows success to come to you because you've become someone worth succeeding. This is why your achievements feel different than others. When you're not exhausting yourself performing hustle, you have energy for depth that creates lasting value. This is why your relationships are deeper. When you're not treating every person as a networking opportunity, you can build genuine connections that naturally lead to collaboration. But accepting this truth, that you're meant to let success come to you rather than chase it desperately, that's the hardest part. Now comes the practical question. How do you let success come to you in a world that demands constant hustling? Lao Tzu believed that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. But once you accept that chasing repels success, you need a framework for cultivation instead of pursuit. First, replace networking with genuine relationship building. Stop going to events to collect contacts. Start having real conversations with people who interest you. Stop asking, what can this person do for me? Start asking, what genuine value can we create together? When you're not performing connection, real connection happens naturally. The opportunities that come from genuine relationships are worth infinitely more than the opportunities that come from desperate networking. Second, replace promotion with creation of undeniable value. Stop spending 80% of your time promoting and 20% creating. Flip it. Spend 80% of your time making your work so good it speaks for itself. When your value is obvious, you don't need to convince anyone. When you're genuinely excellent, people seek you out. The best marketing is being so good they can't ignore you. Third, develop what Lao Tzu called Wu Wei, action through non-action. This isn't doing nothing, it's acting without force, without desperation, without grasping. Work deeply on things that matter, but release attachment to specific outcomes. Create value consistently, but don't desperately chase validation. Move in your direction, but don't force doors that aren't opening. When you stop forcing, you notice which paths open naturally. But here's the most important part. You have to stop measuring success by hustle culture's metrics. Society wants you to measure success by followers, by busyness, by visible grinding. Hustle gurus promise results from 18-hour days and aggressive networking. Social media celebrates the performance of ambition rather than actual achievement. But Lao Tzu understood something deeper. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. That accomplishment doesn't happen on hustle culture's timeline. Your success might build slowly and invisibly for years. Your value might compound quietly while others are performing loudly. Your moment might not come until you've done years of deep work nobody saw. And that's not failure. That's how sustainable success actually works. Think about it. Every person who let success come to them was told they weren't hustling enough. Lao Tzu himself was criticized for not pursuing power and status. His approach seemed passive for centuries to achievement-obsessed cultures, but when his wisdom started spreading naturally through people who found genuine value in it, everything he'd been cultivating suddenly became undeniable. His non-pursuit turned out to be more influential than all the aggressive empire-building of his contemporaries. The same pattern happens over and over. The person everyone said wasn't hustling enough suddenly achieves lasting success, while the desperate hustlers burn out. Because while everyone else was performing ambition, they were building actual value. While others were networking desperately, they were forming genuine relationships. While others were chasing success, they were becoming the kind of person success naturally finds. Here's what nobody tells you about letting success come to you. It will arrive, but not in the way you expected or the timeline you wanted. Let me say it again. Lao Tzu wrote, "A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving." You've been releasing fixed plans, while everyone else grasps desperately at specific outcomes. You've been opening to natural flow while they've been forcing against resistance. And that openness gives you something hustle culture can't provide. The ability to recognize unexpected opportunities, to pivot naturally when better paths appear, to achieve success without burning out in pursuit of it. But success arriving won't announce itself dramatically. It won't fit the hustle to breakthrough narrative that social media sells. Instead, it will feel organic, natural, like something that was always meant to happen. The right person will reach out seemingly randomly. The opportunity will present itself when you're not looking. The breakthrough will emerge from work you were doing for its own sake. And when that moment comes, all the years of not chasing will reveal themselves as exactly what needed to happen. Every time you resisted desperate networking was actually you preserving energy for genuine connection. Every time you chose depth over visibility was actually you building value that would eventually become undeniable. Society celebrates hustle culture because it keeps people desperate and exploitable. They prove that maybe the problem isn't people who don't hustle enough. Maybe the problem is a culture that pathologizes natural rhythms and tries to force everyone into frantic chasing that benefits course sellers more than achievers. If you're someone who feels exhausted by constant hustling, if your ambition exists without desperate energy, if you've been called passive despite doing deeply valuable work, Lao Tzu would recognize you immediately. You're not lazy. You're not unambitious. You're not failing at success. You're understanding something most never will. That success is like water. It flows to those who become like valleys, not to those who grasp desperately. The question isn't whether you're ambitious enough. The question is whether you'll have the courage to stop chasing and start cultivating the conditions that allow success to come to you. Because Lao Tzu was right. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And sometimes the most ambitious thing you can do is stop running and become someone worth finding. Even when the world calls that passivity. The person who lets success come to them isn't society's underachiever. They're proof that the hustle model burns people out faster than it builds them up. And that's exactly why threatened people fear them. If this video made you see success differently, or if you recognize yourself in someone who's tired of chasing, let me know in the comments. What's the biggest thing that came to you when you stopped chasing it? And if you want more content that challenges everything, hustle culture taught you about achievement, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we're just getting started with wisdom that success gurus don't want you to hear.